Welcome back to the Awakening Potential Show. This is a space where ordinary softens and extraordinary is allowed to emerge. I'm your host, Karen Rudolph, and this is a show for visionary leaders who've carried a lot, learned a lot, and quietly know there's not more to do, rather more to remember. So here we're talking about awakening, not as a concept, rather as an experience, and through real stories, embodied wisdom, and conversations that where life actually is. This is where sassy confidence meets classy wisdom and bold, badassy brilliance gets to be expressed without apology. So take a deep breath. I'm really excited to introduce my guest today. He's somebody whose journey truly reflects the art of this work. My guest, Ken Rochon Jr., who shares content focused on conscious living, personal growth, and real life transformation. He's an authority impact strategist, a publisher, and the owner of the Perfect Publishing Company. Love that. He's a global connector, Renaissance man, and host of the Dr. Smiley Show, which is housed on YouTube. Welcome, Ken Rochon, to the Awakening Potential Show. It's so great to have you here.
It is so great to be awakened with you, Karen.
Thank you.
And thank you for putting Ken in Awaken. That's very nice of you.
Absolutely. You are. As I've gotten to know you, you're very awakened and you're very intriguing to say the least. And I thought this would be perfect too. Before we really delve into moving forward where you are today, I always like to ask, who were you before life told you who to be, if that was your case?
Who was I? I was a materialistic single person just on a quest to have as much fun with not too much meaning. And I thought back then that was it, but it wasn't at all.
What'd you play with as a child?
Oh, I was devious. I would like to draw on couches and paint walls, and I liked to build. I liked to construct. I was your typical kid, Lincoln Logs, Legos, anything I could do to build. I loved it.
I hear that. The reason why I ask that is it's usually people who are pretty much aligned with who, well, and what they do today. They're in your case building something big.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the way whom I know you to be is created something huge. So, but before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your background, if you would, starting from childhood all the way up.
Well, I was
You were
never
playing
t
with Lincoln Logs.
Well, I grew into loving soccer and just being very active. Loved right out of the beginning anything that brought playtime or fun to my experience. I will say that I moved a lot, and in my first 12 years of life, I was outside the United States for most of them. I lived in India. I was the only white kid in my Indian school in New Delhi, and in Germany and some other places. I got into a bad habit of really not liking the departure and turning a friendship that was beautiful into a horrible ending, like an enemy, but just being cruel or something like that. And it was a very transformational experience I had when my mom pulled me aside and said, "You know, it'll be a really hard life you're living if this is how you're going to behave." And she says, "Look for the good in people, you always find it." And I was looking for the bad in people, and that lasted the rest of my life. And Dr. Smiley that I am is someone that looks for the good, and I find it all the time. There's almost I can't even really think of anyone I can't see the good in them. I just see beauty. And so that's something I learned around the age of 10, and it's just taken me all the way through life beautifully. And the opposite is if you look for the bad in people, you'll find that too. So why would you look for that?
Absolutely. I love that because I find beauty is one of my core values. And like you, I can see it in everybody and, and everything, especially nature for me. It's so interesting because people will say to me, for real, but they did XYZ to you or whatever. No, they still something there. Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
and the other
cool.
gift is you usually get the best of them.
Yeah.
Like if no one else has looked for the good in them or no one else has only seen the good in them, they typically magnify that experience for you, which is a beautiful thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So tell us more, like
Um,
back and
I was probably an undiagnosed 80 something, but we'll just say that I was put in the corner of classrooms draw and I escaped there and I became a very introverted kid and I became very talented with a pencil and a pen. And so spinning all the way up to high school, I got two art grants to college and I just really loved exploring and creating with my pen and pencil. I ended up going into medical illustration. And for 5 years, I studied every single component of art and then every single component of science, which is a double major.
so good.
And I ended up teaching physics and chemistry to middle school kids.
That's right. I forgot that piece of the puzzle. So, where did that take you? And what did you
Well,
learn from that experience, if I may? Because there's always learned something from that we
My
grow up.
mom and my mom and dad were so instrumental in my life. My dad was a bit of a strict guy, but he was quite a role model. He was a very honorable person, honorable father, honorable husband, very expected respect. And I wanted to see what his life was like. So I went into ROTC at Johns Hopkins University, got my commission, and I went into the Army just for a short stint. But I wanted to know what his life was like. I also wanted to, I guess, honor him for signing up and saying that he would fight for our freedom and fight for our country. So I did that, and then my mom was a teacher, and so I said I don't want to teach art. I want to teach something that I think will get kids a better chance at problem solving or living, because science is math, and science explains why energy and matter happen and why the result of miracles happen in life. There's just so much to it, and so I taught science for 4 years, and I got my fill. I made enough differences with those kids, but the art side of it, I became a photographer and didn't know anything about what a camera does, but I sure could make art with it. And so when people would say, "How are you doing this?" I said, "I actually don't even know, but I can understand." I looked it through the lens and I could see composition, I could see absolute beauty, and I would take pictures and I would continuously hear people say, "You captured my spirit," or "You did that in one shot. How'd you do that?" And it's just a feeling. And I think it's a download from God, quite frankly. I don't think it's me. I think it's God helping me push the finger down on a button and then seeing something very inspirational. But I've had a lot of people say, that's better than reality, what you just took.
Yeah, and knowing you now, I met you while you were taking pictures.
Right.
I've since seen your pictures, which are absolutely amazing. And I'm sure as a publisher, you've also published that book of all the amazing artwork. Am I correct?
I have, yes. And
That's
I'm a person of gratitude, and I do want to give some gratitude to Brian. If you'll share, because you know him better, but he has the Be Great that he was nice enough to allow me to be there as a media sponsor. And I met you, and I met the most incredible humans. I've had Bridger on my show, I've had Ramon on my show, and he is the filter of phenomenal. Yeah.
That man definitely has a heart of gold, and I so honor that. And he attracts people like you who also have a heart of gold. So I too have had quite a number of people on the show here as well, and I am always forever grateful for that because I love being around kind-hearted, inspirational, awakened people. So, yeah.
You attract, and abundance can be something as simple as wellness or happiness or smiles, even are going to affect your journey of life. And so, if you're enjoying your journey of life, that's worth it by itself.
Absolutely. And you have this unique way of capturing those smiles. Tell us about it. I usually have a little card here and I have it underneath.
Well, don't
I'm
worry. I always have plenty of,
there you go. Keep
and I
smiling. I
have
was
them
gonna
in,
like everybody and pulled it up.
well, I
Yeah,
have them in 48 languages, and
love it.
it is so fun to give a smile card to someone because one of three things happen. They light up more and they go, I am, or they get a little deep and they say, I needed that. Thank you. Or they say, just thank you.
I love it because it's all energy, right?
It
Such a positive energy. How can you not smile when you see that? And you're standing behind it with a big, broad smile that you have. It's hard not to really relate to that and just be in joy. So thank you for creating that because that is something you create out there in the world. And I've seen you in action and it's very impressive to say the least.
Well,
So
Barry Shore is the one who handed me this card back in 2015. And had he not
okay,
handed me the card after 7 years of trying to find my purpose, it was my journey from the time my mom passed to the time I received the card was 7 years. And I was a caregiver for my mom, which was the ultimate awakening for me. You had asked earlier about journey. When I took
right.
care of my mom with my dad, I was awakened to a purpose. I was awakened to there being much more to life. And I was awakened that I had much more to do than just be a DJ. But the question about how I captured a smile. And when I hand the card to somebody, I say, I would like to honor you for being someone who's a positive force in the world or a heart-centered leader or all the good you're doing in the world. And so they feel good. And then I say, I'm going to take a picture of you and put you in a book of people that create smiles in the world.
Love
And
it.
they say, really? And I say, yes. And so when I see them, they're in a state, and that state could be optimal, or it could be I need to look good right now. So we want to shift them from wanting to look good to just being joy, and joy is optimal, awakened.
Yeah.
So I'll say something to them. If they're not in the state that I'm hoping that they would be in, I'll say, do you have kids? And they'll say yes or no. And if they say no, I'll say, well, what are you grateful for? But if they have kids, I go, aren't they amazing? About how what a gift they are to you. And they light up. It is a very huge force of joy and energy.
Yes.
And then I put my finger on my camera as if it was a gun, a sniper, and I am waiting for that magic optimal joy. And I just click down, and it almost never had to take a second shot, almost ever. And
Love it.
when the finger touches and before it presses, I say love. And I do that every single time single time I take a photo, I always say love. And I think it makes a big difference. I don't know how I don't know how the camera and what I see as a picture could be given any other power but love. And there's something that happened to me, a little bit of a tangent, but it fits here, is I was a DJ, which was mixing music, and it was music is the universal language. And I thought, who is luckier than me to have a career where I'm paid and I get to pay my bills by spinning music? It was my
Mm.
life for 30, 40 years. And then my mom awakening me, I found that capturing and having a smile card in someone's hand was the expression of a smile, is the universal expression of love and welcome. Like you smile at somebody, you're not giving them anything but good vibes that you respect, you love them, you want to collaborate with them, you want to create
Yeah.
something with them. And then the final one was actually me going to Qatar and getting the ambassador of peace through the United Nations and the Women's First Ladies Forum. And that was I don't know if it's the finish, but I'll just say it's the third time I was awakened that love is the universal power. So you got music is the universal language, and smile is universal expression, love is the universal power. And I said to someone when I was exiting a train about 5 or 6 months ago, I said, you know why a smile's so powerful? And this is me literally saying this, didn't know the person,
Right.
exiting a train, and just was downloaded to me. And she goes, no, why? And I said, because it's fueled with love. And just this past week, and points are only going to really land here. So, is an artist, and he's called an world impact artist, and he is phenomenal. His name is Marco Santini, and he does the kind of work that you just did a TED talk, but you see the word heart with love, and he's got it in all these languages, and it forms the art. So he uses words and art and community to build his stuff. And I said, you know what? As a fellow artist, I studied art for most of my life. What is art? And I actually, like the last couple of days, I toying with this because music, smile, love. And what I
Right.
came up with art is the power of all of them. Is the power of all of them. If you don't apply art and creation to music, it's not going to have as many smiles or as much impact. Same with
Right.
smiles. So it's the art of actually bringing love to art, and they all work together beautifully.
Yeah, I love that. Listening audience, a lot of people have come to me in the past. I found my purpose. I don't know who I am, what I, et cetera, et cetera. Yet a little card impacted your life so
Mm,
profoundly
lovely.
that it's taking you on this journey. And for me, that's the journey of love. And I remember doing a similar course to you way back in the day. And I was on this little itty bitty stage back then, and my knees were shaking. And they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm love." And every single thing, declared word, right?
Mhm.
Beginning was the word. And I remember every single thing I've done. I found a course I created years ago and I'm revamping it. And I looked at it again, and all of a sudden it's like every single thing I've done has aligned with that. And that's exactly what I'm hearing in your speaking as well. And to me, that's the gift. And seeing it clearly creates the purpose and the vision for the future of what you're becoming. And you're totally becoming it. So to me, you became it. And then we're always expanding. So
You remember the Napoleon Hill about how he met Dale Carnegie?
yes,
And Dale gave him an opportunity. Mr. Carnegie, I don't know who pronounces it right.
right,
Mr. Carnegie gave him the same time he gave 200 other people to make a decision if he would like to work for free and meet the biggest people in the world. And Napoleon was the only one who said yes. And
right,
when I met Barry Shore, he had handed this to over 1 million people. He said either 1 million or it's downloaded from his website. So let's say he gave it. I've given this to hundreds of thousands of people, by the way, physically. I have. It hit me, and learning this in this actual moment. This is happening right now. I've never said any of this right now and it is, are you ready to have something handed to you that will jolt you? My mom was the eternal optimist. And for 7 years, I'm looking at what I'm supposed to. I chose to live a purpose in life, but I wasn't in line with it yet. I was only awakened. I was doing it, but I was 7 years photographing it. And honestly, at 7 years, I was starting to wonder, is this was supposed to be this awakening? And then Barry hands me the card, and he described only yesterday. We had our mentor call. He calls me every week, and we just have so much fun. But he described to me. He says there was this guy. He walked through this forum area, and I handed him a card, and he was jolted. And he was talking about me, my experience. But I share that it was as big a jolt as is expressed in the Blues Brothers when Jake sees the light come through the church, and he says, "I see the light." For 7 years, I did not see anything but the beauty of people and the people commenting on how beautiful the captures were that inspired them or enlightened them. But this card was handed to so many people. And for me, it jolted me into, I know what I'm supposed to do with my life. And what I was supposed to do is, one, be a tribute to my mom. Two, create as many smiles in the world as possible. But three, when the pandemic happened, my TED Talk just again downloaded, and it was, "What is your SPH? I want to awaken the world. How many smiles per hour are they doing, giving themselves, and are they giving to others? What is your SPH?" And it is a mathematical formula. My physics and chemistry actually finally aligned to my purpose.
Amazing, right?
And I've never said what I just shared ever.
I love it. So thank you. I'm honored that you would share it here. This is awakening.
The
So
awakening potential.
it's always a I love that. So you got such a rich journey and it's fascinating. And getting to know you has been absolutely fascinating. And just being in the space and hearing about your journey, let alone what's coming. Yeah. And tell us a little bit about the Renaissance man.
Well, when I was put into that corner, so to speak, and I delved into art really heavily, I fortunately had an uncle who was an architect, and he would send me drawing books. So he sent me a book on how to draw horses. Very soon after, I fell in love with Michelangelo's work and Da Vinci's. And for a 7-year-old to become so masterful in how I drew and how I copied all their stuff, I was so intrigued of who they were and why they were so creative. And it was because they were in a Renaissance period. And so
Mm,
the Renaissance is just, it's an awakening of humanity for the
absolutely.
science and the arts. It's not just one, it's not just the other. It's how art and science play together, which
Yes.
unfolded my medical illustration journey, which is I want to combine that there's a reason life exists, but there's also an art to it. And so I call Science of Smiles an art as well. I call anything I'm doing like the art of life, I have the art of events, because there's a science to it underneath, but there's an art to it. And if you can combine DJing, for instance, as an art and a science, the science means the math, the beats per minute, and then the art of the creation of how to blend and which songs blend together, it becomes a magical experience, to say the least.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like the art of alignment you have mastered for sure.
But it's
Very.
practice and it doesn't work in the beginning. Anyone who's listening, I think the ultimate awakening tool is to read something like Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point or Outliers and be ready for the fact that if you're given the biggest gift in the world, but it took you 10,000 hours to get that gift, is it worth doing the 10,000 hours? And I say emphatically,
Yeah,
emphatically.
absolutely.
And anybody who has what I would consider a phenomenal experience of life, they probably will say, yeah, of course I spent 10,000 hours studying this, whether it was a piano or how to make money or how to be a great dad or whatever they chose. And you alluded to had an interesting life, and everyone can have it. It's a choice. Just like a smile is, you can not have a smile or you can have a smile, but you choose it. And I've had people that say they're literally miserable and they're unhappy, but they talk about their kids, and next thing
Exactly.
they know, they're happy.
Definitely. Something too. My very first book I wrote, chapter one, is all about the anatomy of a smile. So I totally align with you. You went on to, which came first? 64 books that you've created, or has the number changed at this point, or the publishing company? Which came first for you?
Definitely the first book came first, meaning I did a book before I had a publishing company. So
Yeah.
the short story to this is I didn't want to have a publishing company. I didn't need a publishing company, and I
Mm,
wouldn't build a publishing company. But just like my DJ company and just like my photography company, there was a lot of problems with this industry. Of all, there was a digital age. And then to become an author didn't take much to become an author anymore. Back in the day, it was a lot. It was a big deal to become an author. And so I went and met publishers and I shared my story. I took care of my mom and that I wanted to write a book about relationships. I wanted to write a book about how to create business relationships that flourish. And they were fine with it. They liked it, but they said, 25,000 or give me $30,000. And being a business person, I just asked this very simple question. Well, how do I get my money back? And you would think I was speaking another language all of a sudden because they were like, huh? It was very weird because I thought that they were in the business to make a book and an author succeed. But in essence, the analogy I came up with is that they are like a glorified printing doctor and they help you make a beautiful baby, but they don't tell you how to raise it. And they don't tell you how that baby will need a tremendous amount of love and support after the book drops. I can't imagine any distinction between a baby and a book, seriously, because if you have a baby come in the world and you are delusional enough to think that that's where it ends, you're going to have a dead baby, and you're not only that, you're going to be tragically affected. And
Exactly.
if you drop a book and you think you're done, you're going to feel like a failure, and you're going to feel like, well, I guess it wasn't in the cards for me to be an author. And that's like telling a brilliant athlete, hey, only practice one day in the next 4 years and you'll be ready for the Olympics.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. So that's why I said the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. If you put in hours into writing your book or 20 hours in writing your book or more, multiply that times 100. That's how many hours you have to put in to raise the book into the world. And if you want the book to raise you up, it's a very good equation. Give 100 times more to your book, and later your book will give some proportion of that back to you. It could be as high as 100% back to you.
So you ended up with a publishing company.
Yeah, so after the first book,
Publishing.
so didn't pay 25 or 30,000. Well, actually, you're right. I didn't answer that correctly. I couldn't find a publisher that could show me an ROI. So I did start my publishing company, but I didn't start it for anybody but me. I just started it for me to do my own self-publish. I didn't expect to help 750 other people do a book and help market them and help them create careers and extra income or abundance. I really didn't. But after I dropped my book, it was a horrific experience. It was financially devastating. It was embarrassing. My mom had just passed the year before. I promised my mom on her deathbed I was going to write a book, and the book came out, and I didn't have my mom, who was a history, reading, and teacher. She had three masters, and my dad was a speechwriter, and he had already been away from his work for 3 years, and he was still pretty devastated about my mom. So I didn't bug him, and he was a brilliant speechwriter. So I hired this coach, and she didn't mean to do me wrong, but it was very careless execution of a book that had 42 glaring errors. When my dad read it, he called me within a couple of days. He says, "Ken, you do know that you have some really bad grammaticals in here, don't you?" And I go, "No." I found out there were
Mhm.
42 when he cleaned it up. I mean, that's a lot on 168 pages of 42 glaring errors. And
Mhm.
so I had spent a lot of money still. Instead of putting the 25,000 into the publishers that were not going to give me an ROI, I put it into a lot of books. I bought 2,000 books in color. And it was about 16,000 or $20,000. It was a lot. And then when I paid for my coaching and my editors and graphic and all that, it added up to still about 25K. But it was because I bought so many books. I thought, I have 11,000 people on my phone. I might as well get a couple thousand so I can go through them. And there's a lot of things I learned. One is 11,000 people were, let's just say 2,000, maybe three said, let me know when your book drops. I'm going to buy it. Remembered to do that. 11 out of the 2,000. And then I had to say to myself, hey, this book is problematic. I asked people, I said, well, you write a review for the book? And they said, well, it's tricky. You have lots of errors in your book. And I said, what about the content? They said, the content's fantastic. I love the content. I said,
Yeah.
would you write a review on the content and forgive me for the grammaticals? And would you identify the grammaticals and I'll put your name in the book for the next printing saying that you were one of the editors? And I had four people take me up on that. So
Oh,
we re-released the book and I had to pay about $6,000 for a re-release. And that was hard because I actually had to talk myself into a massive failure. Do I want another one to really cement the fact I'm not supposed to be a writer or definitely I wasn't a publisher then. I didn't consider myself a publisher. But what happened in the second printing was the book was done right. It was done better. And it taught me a book is never done. So anyone that does a book, you got to forgive yourself and let go of the perfection because That's like a baby to come out perfect and saying, "Are you ready to go? I hope you got this all after the 9 months you've been resting, right?" So I really did some magic with that book. I didn't do great sales, but the marketing was brilliant, and the amount of podcasts I got on, I was on fire. And so, because of the perception, people thought I was super successful with the book, which I wasn't, but I was succeeding. And
Right.
so I had like all these people come out of the woodwork and say, "Can you help me with a book? I'd love for you to help me with a book." And I would not take their money, Karen. I wouldn't take it. I said, "I will help you, and I will help you finish a book, and I'll help you market a book, but I can't take your money because I don't know how you're going to make money on it yet. I don't know it." And so after doing 10 people, I said, "I'm actually pretty good at this. I know what it takes."
Mhm.
And so I did start charging, and the first fees were a steal, but then I also didn't have the experience I have now. But I
Exactly.
have put in enough time to know that a book is a tool, a book is a weapon, and a book is a gateway to conversations that could make you anywhere from $500 to $500,000 per conversation. And I've seen it, by the way. This is not speculation. I have a gentleman that did a book with me. He gave away 300 books. His non-negotiable fee was $50,000. He gave 300 books away. He closed six people. It was a good day for him.
I love it. I don't want to skip over the fact that you mentioned art earlier. I also
Hmm.
look at books as an art, and I believe a lot of us have a book inside of us. I know I just launched my book, and we go. I wish I would have had somebody like you who has the experience to guide me because you're absolutely right. My experiences have been, okay, here's your baby, now it's on your own, and they don't really give you the context. And that was one of the things that I was very impressed seeing you in action because you do go above and beyond for your clients and your people. And I've had a lot of people since then. That's where I was going with it. I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, Karen, you wrote a book. Like, I want to write a book. And how do I do it?" So for the listening audience, like those who want to, perhaps we all have a book inside of us. We
Right.
talk about it a lot of times. It doesn't get, don't know how to even start kind of thing. You recommend just briefly, what do you thought?
Well, this is a touchy topic for me, so it is going to be a little controversial, but here we go.
Okay.
I have a lot of people that say, "Oh, you've done all these books. I want to do a book, do a book on my own." I go, "Yeah, biggest gift another publisher could have given you is actually using the word baby instead of book. If they handed you and said, 'Here's your baby,' you would have at least thought, 'Oh, if this is a baby, I got to raise it.' But if they say, 'Here's your book,' like your car, like your cup of coffee, you think, 'Okay, done.'" And the completion of the book, the download of your mind and your heart to a book, in my math, in my equation, is only 1%. Only one. And by the way, I might even be being generous. Anybody can write a book, and 99% of people don't do it again because it is a horrifically financially depressing and underwhelming experience. And it's not that the author was horrible. It's not that the book was bad. In fact, in most cases, it was a beautiful piece that could have been better, but they never got to that. And they never got to it because they said, "I guess the world's going to buy my books." And then Aunt Sally and Uncle Bill and Ed, they buy the book and you tally it up and you're like, "Wow, the 20 people I know are the only ones who bought my book." They never want to be your client. You would be
Right.
better off just asking them for $20 because you'd make pure profit instead of on $20, you're making roughly $10 in the book. They'll never read it, they'll never review it, but they want to show you they love you. So they give you $20. And this happens to 80 to 98%. I don't know where the exact figure is, but it's a very high figure. It's an astronomically high figure. I have this new book coming out. It's the first book I'm writing. It comes out this August, and it's my birthday present to awaken and shake up the world in a way that I may not be so popular. Dr. Smiley might get a black eye or two. And it's called 1%. And what it's alluding to, and is very in your face, is it says on the front cover, 1% of you will read this book for more abundance and happiness. And you flip the book completely to the other side, and it says 99% of you will not read this to tolerate the life you live. And that's a very harsh thing to say. My preface starts off by saying, one, I'm not perfect. Two, I am not 1% in every area I'd like to be 1% in. I'm certainly not 1% in abundance. I'm 1% in the abundance of happiness. I'm 1% probably in the abundance of wellness. And I'm probably 1% in the abundance of the fatherhood experience. and maybe even in the authorship. But there's so many I have work to do. And in some of them, it's dramatic amount. It's a lot of work. But are you committed to the fact that first, you acknowledge you're in the 99%, and two, are you copying what a one percenter does so you can at least lift up and level up to a more powerful version of yourself? And so the book has, on the page, it has like attitude or action, and it'll talk about how 1% plays, and you have to turn the book upside down to see how the 99% person plays. Here's where I got the idea. If I was in a room and I said, how many of you want to be an author? And if there's 100 people, it might be 70 or 80%, maybe even 90, a lot when it's a professional room. Ask them a year from now how many did the book. It'll be about one or two. It's going to be a very small number. So then you take the one or two people that did the book and you multiply it times 100. So you have 100 people that do a book, and you say, how many of you are carrying your book with you right now? It'll be only one or two. That's it. And how many of you did a second book? Almost none, one. How many of you made your money back on your book? How many of you actively marketing your book religiously, like every day? 1%. How many of the people that are one percenters that actually moved their book, they actually really sold enough of their books that they could say, I have some muscle, I moved my books. How many of those actually made a living? It's about 1%. It's a very, very small percentage. And by the way, if it's not 1%, we're not talking about big deviations here. We're talking maybe 4%. And why is that the case? Is because too many of us are playing at 99%. I can give you one example that's going to be really a very big experiment I've done for the last 15 years. If you give your business card, not your Keep Smiling card, but your business card to somebody, and you give it to 100 people, you'll hear from somewhere between 1 and 5. Depends what room you're in. What's interesting is the 1 to 5 you'll hear from, they won't even know what to do except for ask for business. So they're not even going to contribute to your life. Maybe one will. And that person's at a mastery level of relationships. That's what my first book was about. If you read Go Giver by Bob Berg, you'll get an essence of, I didn't just meet people. If I got their card or I talked to them, I was in action the next day to connect them to another person or an opportunity or find out how I could help them or even recommend a book, which could have been Bob Berg's Go Giver. But I did something that enhanced their life. Imagine if you had 100 people in a room that did that, it would be our world and our abundance would massive. We couldn't even keep track of it. The good news in a way is that it is only 1%. You can be a very special person if you play at 1%. You can be an exceptionally successful person if you play at 1%. I am a follow-up person. When I get a person next to me and I take a picture with them, I say, would you like me to send you my book? Or I'd love to help you. Do you mind if I get your number? And if you're in a safe room, obviously that's not a big deal. So Karen gives me her number. I say, hey, Karen, do you mind if I get a picture with you? Sometimes I forget people or who's in my phone. Can we take a picture together? So we take a picture together. And as I'm taking the phone down, I go, hey, since you're my new friend, when's your birthday? And I'll say, I don't need the year, just your month and day. And you say, your month and day. I now have a way of saying, you're special on your birthday. And guess what? I don't do it on Facebook. I don't do it on LinkedIn. I write you a text with a video. It's usually one with my son. And we both sing happy birthday to you. And there's no doubt about it. No one else did that.
Love that. Yep, absolutely.
And then what's a bonus is I can say, Karen, I didn't know your that's pretty cool. Your birthday's on this day. Did you know that such and such celebrity is born on this day? And you go, how'd you know that? Well, my phone has one celebrity per day of every day of the year in my phone because I want to say, oh, Lincoln was born on that day or was born that day. And then I sometimes will say, I have 35 people on my phone with your birthday. This is actually a good person for you to know. Connect them. And you're anchoring value very quickly. And so it's not about the publishing. It's about how do you go into an industry and be a one percenter. I had 350 DJ companies that I entered the industry with, and we were the top one for 25 years. We did three things no one else did. We were full time. Most DJs are not full time. We had have an office, and we did a demo in front of them. They came out to our office, and we literally mixed in front of them. And we closed 85% of our business at twice the offering. So if another DJ company, if all the other DJ companies were charging 500, we were charging 1,000. As they matured, they were charging 1,000, we were charged 2,000. It was funny. The more we charged, the more they crept their price up. And by the time they were getting closer, we were going up to another level.
That's amazing. Well,
can I tell you the publishing room real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would never have gone into publishing, but I decided whatever the other publisher are doing, that's just a given. But what we do are three things. We
Uh,
come up with how is the book going to give you an ROI? I mean, a really direct question to ask right out of the gate. Like,
yeah.
why are you doing this book and how are you going to make money with this book? And honestly, some people don't know. I would say over half don't know. And I say, well, what do you do? What's your time worth? What do you want to have your time represent that a conversation could give you that time? And so we analyze that. That's a biggie. Second thing, if you're an author, I want you to feel like a superstar. I want you to feel like you are making a difference. You are the authority you deserve to be. So we take you to New York, we take you to DC, we do cities over a 2 year period, and it becomes really a social proof campaign.
Uh,
Third thing we do, which I love the most, and thank you for your help on this one, is we created a community that when it's your day to have an Amazon bestseller, you have 100 or more people buy your book, review your book, and support you in a community that is actually called the Authorthon community. And Karen, just for the audience to know, she was really spending a lot of time critically thinking about how that Authorthon directory could be better. And I was kind of it all, Karen. I mean, I was my motive. You can't tell me anything. I've done it. You have no idea how much time I spent on this. And she came up with a very simple idea, and I didn't. It could be so effective, but everyone loves that you can check the box, and that the box turns into a black check mark, and you don't have to think about that one anymore. And I never psychologically it was that important but it is very. You did. It completely changed. We probably doubled or tripled the amount of people that play with the Authon community. It's not where we want it to be still, but it was
Getting
definitely
there.
in the right direction. The smile of gamifying it, that's been the biggest piece. We did in
Um,
20 days, it's been 20 days, it's been up. 1,490 reviews have been written on the site that are copied from Amazon. And we believe by December it could be as high as 10,000 reviews have been given
oh, I love
isn't that
that.
crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome. Because I know that that was like a stuck for
Oh,
you
it
going
was
forward. And I love to hear that. Oh, yay. That is,
and
I mean,
that's a question. Like if
yes.
you're stuck and you have put in 10 hours and you're still stuck, are you still going to accept that? I think I
Yeah.
had around 300 hours when I was with you, and that's why I said I don't think you're gonna be able to tell me something. I've really analyzed this heavily. You remember how I was
Yes.
put a little bit of friction there,
Oh,
but
yeah.
when you do that, I go, I thought of that. I don't know if it's going to work, but if I don't try it, I won't know. And so I called my team, and they go, "This is really a good idea." And I was like, I didn't know it was a good idea until I heard how good an idea it was from them because they were like, "This is going to make a difference," and it did. It made a big difference.
Okay. Well, that went my heart. I'm so grateful to hear that. Thank you, and for sharing that with me because it just seemed so, as a creative problem solver, it just seems so simple in the moment. For our listening audience, you have a gift for them as we're speaking about books and such. What is that gift? And just so they know, all of Ken's information is going to be in the show notes, along with his gift and his contact number. And he is one person that will definitely get back at you and support. Sure. So,
Well, my
what is
big gift is look at how much I know you're talking about the real gift, which I'm going to give, but the simple low hanging fruit gift is do some looks at yourself in the mirror and start doing some smiles and start seeing how often you smile and see if you can awaken yourself to smile more and see if smiling awakens you more because they're actually together. And you'll be giving so many gifts to yourself and others that you love and that you want to care about if you really figure out how to smile more. And it's really fueled by gratitude. So no matter how much something happens, like I got a flat tire the other day, and I could have said, "This is something to complain about. This is sucks. The tires were $1,800. It wasn't a fun experience." But went to the gratitude. It seriously did. I don't last there very long. I quickly that my identity of Dr. Smiley is constantly reminding me, who are you being? Who do you want to be? And I said, I want to be happy. So I thought, how lucky am I that I had this happen 2 days before my trip to Maine instead of on the way to Maine? And then it would completely change the experience of me driving 12 hours, having a flat tire, trying to find. And by the way, these tires take a day or two to order. So if I would have been stuck with no car, we get or rent a car, it's just been a mess. So I immediately shifted to how lucky am I? This car had this problem before we went on this long trip. So my gift, guys, is several things. One is I think that this book is my favorite of my 300 Keep Smiling books because it has just so many amazing people, and I don't care what pages you turn to, and they have quotes, and I'm just arbitrarily turning
yeah.
pages. But oh, I actually am excited to say, look at who I turned to. Is that appropriate? Out of four turns, I get to Brian Gallagher,
Yeah.
and there's Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a lot of people in here that are from that event, so that's pretty cool too. I will give this to you digitally. We charge $365 for this book. If you want to buy it on Amazon, completely your choice, but I'll dock $300 off of the price. But if you want it free, it's free. I'll give it to you digitally. The big gift I'll give you, beyond that the Smile Channel is a place for authors, speakers, podcasters, influencers, philanthropists, community leaders. If you are a person that really truly is making a difference and you need more publicity to do it, and you want to harness the publicity and you're willing to be actively giving that back to the community, it's a free membership. And the free membership, you cannot get you cannot get on the site, you cannot be part of the community without an invitation. All you need to do is put Karen's name, and you will be approved automatically by Karen's name. If you don't put a name, you're not in. We have to take about 5 people off a week that they just came in and we don't know who they are and we don't know if it's safe for them to be there, or the community safe, so we just remove them. You have to put Karen's name for us to allow you in. And the third, and I think biggest gift from me, is my book of my first 60 years. It shares all 60 books, all 60 epiphanies, stories, my journey. And I've had people say how lucky I am. And I think Mark Twain said it best when he says, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So I've been to 100 countries, and I did it initially on $5,000. And when I went to the first couple countries, I made more money. I started learning how to save and how to be what I do with my time off. I think I was talking with someone recently about when you take time off, you actually recreate, you reinvent, you restore. And there's so much that comes out of it. So when I go on a trip, I'll meet somebody who is very abundant, and they'll say, "Hey, have you ever read this book?" And I go, "No." And they go, "Read it. It'll change your life." I read it. Next thing I know, I've added another 2,000 to 10,000 to my monthly income. I mean, it's that serious. Tell me you
Oh,
can't make money to travel when you're constantly giving gifts when you travel to make more money. So those are my three gifts. I did a little longer, but they're very valuable. I want everyone to get them.
it's all perfect. And thank you so much for your generosity. Again, all of Ken's information and those gifts will be in the show notes. If you comment Karen to Ken, he will definitely send you all of that. So thank you. Thank you. So appreciate it. And the listening audience appreciate it. Um, aside from being all of these incredible things, I also know you to be an incredible father, a proud father of a 12-year-old son who's also a prolific author.
Hmm.
He's published, what, 14 books or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'd love to have him on the show as well if he would open to it. But tell us a little bit about that.
Well, with this three bucket list, and I know super successful people can have 100 things on their bucket list, and I think the more you put in there, the more you live life. But my three were very simple, I thought, and they ended up not being so simple. One was to go to 100 countries. The other one was to write a book, and the third was to become a dad. And
Mm,
becoming a dad was the hardest one. It was a miracle of it. And so I decided to raise my son to experience his father as proof that you can change the world. And so he inspires me to live, I'll just say, an unfathomably bigger possibility than I probably would have lived without him. He's
mm,
the one who caused me to write 60 books, just so we're clear. I had written 30 or 40, and when he started writing books, I started becoming a lot more prolific. On his eighth birthday, he wrote his first book when he was 6. On his eighth birthday, he said, "Hey, Dad, I've written 6 books. If I write 4 more books in the next 2 years, I'll have 10 books on my 10th birthday." Little did I know he'd have 12 books or 13 books on his 10th birthday, 12.
mm.
And I asked myself the question, how many have I written? Is it possible I could have 60 books on my 60th birthday? And fortunately, he'd given me 2 years, and I think, 12 books away from it. And I said, "You've never written more than 4 books in a year. Can you do it?" I said to myself that if it's important, I will. And it was important. It was important that I could write in the book that he inspired me to do it.
I love it.
My call it almost pet peeve is that people don't know how powerful they are. And they use this word busy as an excuse for them being productive. And they're not the same word. They're almost words. A productive person always has time for what's important. A busy person lets important things slide by with excuse.
Interesting, because this takes us into and I know your time is so valuable, and I'm so grateful I could go on all day talking to you. You know that already, but I always ask before we part, I call it a pearl of wisdom. What is one thing you really want to leave the listening audience with that is uniquely you?
I think I mentioned it earlier. It's the SPH. What are your smiles per hour? It is that is in Science of Smiles book. And again, anything I mention on the show, I always give away for free. But if you start getting wondrous again, and I think that's what Kenny gave me. He gave me wonder again. I got to see wonder, and by the way, a smile is just as contagious as wonder, and just as contagious as potentially anger. What force are you going to let be the contagious piece in your that you receive and also that you give? And so the gift I give you is every single second of your life is a choice of how you experience it every second. And so I really got cognizant of the fact that at times I wasn't being grateful. And when I wasn't being grateful, I was not happy. And
Yeah.
so I chose to get my doctorate and I chose to give myself a new name. And instead of being called Mr. Smiley, I became Dr. Smiley. So give yourself an identity that you can celebrate. Give yourself an identity that causes you to up level your power because you will be shocked that the biggest message I'm probably going to close with in the book is that even though only 1% of us are truly probably pushing our power, that 99% of us are only using 1% of how powerful we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, hearing that, it's such a great reminder, Ken, that wisdom doesn't always come from having it all figured out, rather from being willing to listen to life when it speaks. Awesome.
Well, I'm going to re-listen to this program myself because I said a couple of unique things. I am actually going to close my book with that. I'd never thought of that before. I had the 1% play at 1% and that 99% don't play at that level. I had that. But I
Yeah.
never had that 99% are potentially playing at 1% of what they could do.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I look forward to reading that one because I read your other one cover to cover and I was wowed by it for sure. Your story is such a powerful reminder that transformation doesn't happen all at once, that it begins when we become aware and continues with those brave, bold, badassy choices that we make along the way. Ken Rochon Jr., thank you so much for your honesty and your heart and your willingness to be with us today and share the journey for sure. It's been such a pleasure.
I am awakened. It's a great podcast title, and I feel I'd be cheating your audience of one more gift. It's not one I give, but it's one I say. There is a quote by Charlie Tremendous Jones: "The difference between where we are today and where we'll be 5 years from now are the people we meet and the books we read." You are certainly someone I met, and I have a gift for your audience of another reading besides Bob Berg, The Go-Giver. It is Adam Grant, Hidden Potential. And it
Mm.
is a brilliant book of how much potential we have and how much we'd be awakened. So I think it's a great compliment to the title of your podcast.
Thank you. We'll definitely put that in the show notes as well. Yeah, because the Actually Awakening Potential was a download for me. And pretty much
Mhm.
everything I do is very intuitive, and everything is in alignment that just unfolds when we become awakened to ourselves and realize that we all have that gift within us. So I always say to the listening audience, please remember that the bridge from ordinary to extraordinary is built with small steps of change and big leaps of faith. You're more powerful than you know. So keep showing up, keep rising, and awakening your potential. And if something sparked interest of you today from either one of us, feel free to reach out and know that we are always spiraling up. So make it a fabulous day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next show, the Awakening Potential Show, and keep smiling. Bye for now.
Right.